You're at the position that you know that you have potential and you think you can do much better, but you're just not in the right time at the right location. And that was kind of like the situation. I had to deal with my day-to-day lives. I had to support my family, and I didn't have access to anything to even think about being an entrepreneur and so many other things. But kind of knew that one day I could turn things around and make it happen. So uh, just the vision was there, but I just didn't have the opportunity.
The water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.
Shahrouz, welcome to Founder Secrets.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you're the founder of Designity, which I think is an innovative kind of company, because I ran an agency for 12 years, a design and kind of marketing agency. We did some retainer work, and as I started to kind of leave the agency world, I saw this outgrowth of businesses who were almost competing maybe with agencies in a way, with a retainer model where you can get talent on a retainer at a fixed price. And it seemed that some of these were using overseas talent, and you're really focused on kind of US led teams, right? So can you kind of speak to what the business is today and who you all target?
Sure. So the reality is that we are actually coming out of the frustrations with the agencies. I mean, not your previous agency for sure, but in general, I'm
Seeing
sure
Taylor's agency is what motivated you to start
Exactly.
No, I'm not trying to just talk anybody down here, but the reality is that there is a common challenge with agency, and the problem is that they overpromise a lot and underdeliver, and we all experience that in many cases. And for us, our mission is basically, our goal is to disrupt the traditional agency model, just their model, not themselves. We don't want anybody out of the business, obviously. And that's why we basically created Designity, so that we could have a transparent model that clients can see what's going on, who is working on the projects, and what's happening, and just give the clients that transparency that is missing in the market.
Nice. And maybe talk a little bit about the journey. And you have an interesting kind of entrepreneur journey and how you get here. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? How'd you get to this place?
I didn't know, honestly, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I figured it out along the way. So I'm actually originally from Iran. I'm coming from a average family that my dad was a school bus driver. So when I started learning myself and figuring out how to make money, the first thing I knew was just getting a car and starting driving and making some money on the side. But I always had passion about successful people and people who are basically well known and so on, and not having access to internet, unfortunately, back there, and so many other things. My only way to sort of learn was basically a hack that I did in my earlier 20s, which was basically driving around the airport, around the VIP lounge, so I could only pick up those successful rich people and give them a ride. And on the way, I was asking a lot of questions. How did you get there? What's your advice and so on? And believe it or not, they told me so many things that I still use it even today. So many great tips that I got from them during those 20, 30 minutes tips that was very useful. Fast forward, I decided to move to the US for obvious reason. Great country for entrepreneurships and making dreams happen. And went to a school to get my master's degree. And after that, I realized that how educational system is broken. Design kids basically don't get the opportunity to work on the field that they're passionate about and end up unemployed for a long time. So build a platform initially to connect design students to companies to basically gain experience and build portfolio. And from there, we made a lot of basically changes to the business model and built a collaborative model, which is Designity now.
What were the lessons that you learned from, that's a really interesting, what were the lessons you learned when driving people around?
It was interesting, actually, because you're at the position that you know that you have potential and you think you can do much better, but you're just not in the right time at the right location. And that was kind of like the situation. I had to deal with my day-to-day lives. I had to support my family, and I didn't have access to anything to even think about being an entrepreneur and so many other things. But kind of knew that one day I could turn things around and make it happen. So uh, just the vision was there, but I just didn't have the opportunity.
Do you, there's a lot of talk right now about AI. There's all these things going on with AI. And I feel like there are pundits who, a lot of whom don't do anything technically. They just like to talk and give their opinions on places like Twitter. But they will try to convince you with 12-part Twitter threads on why every job is going to go away. Designers, writers, programmers, right? Every job is going to be eaten by AI. And you're
except for writing on Twitter.
Except for writing on Twitter. Yeah, they never write themselves out of the future. That's true. So yeah, I mean, how do you think of AI when it comes to design, and also when it comes to kind of your business model? What do you think of all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about it, and I honestly do think that AI unfortunately eliminates a lot of designers and a lot of other peoples in different fields. But when it comes to design specifically, I believe that AI would only remove those copycat designers. And it would actually empower a lot of great designers in a very, very meaningful way. Because you could use AI to simplify a lot of things in your day-to-day job as a designer. I have a creative background myself. I used to be a graphic designer and spent hours to remove a background on a photo, or I was spending hours to create a mood boards, or to just get some inspirations for this project and that project. Now you could do things like in a matter of minutes. And if you use AI to your favor, it's super powerful. I really don't think it's bad in a way. Obviously, we all know that many platforms existed even before the AI is making some noise. 10 years ago, you could go and find a platform that you just give them some keywords and it would make you a logo, or it would make you a website and so many other things, right? But they do it for 100 millions of other people as well, the same exact way, right? And it's not a bad thing. Sometimes you might be in a position in your business that you just wanted to get something up and running, and it's absolutely fine to just use those platforms. But sometimes you need to just go a little bit deeper. You need to make some strategy, make some touches to the process that makes you more unique, and so on. And I really don't think that would be replaced by AI anytime soon, at least for the next like 50, 70 years, I would say.
Well, so I guess if I could push back, I mean, some of the images that come out of some of these places seem pretty compelling, right? And it's almost very in a creative way. Like I hadn't thought of that image quite that way. And so are you saying that the creativity of humans is still better than that, and they won't catch up for like the next 15 years? Is that what you're saying?
No, all I'm saying is that like it's AI, in my opinion, is very powerful if you use it in the right way, right? It's not necessarily eliminates jobs unless you are a type of person that you just wanted to copy and like a prompt there and then use the result directly without adding your touches to it. But we are, for instance, right now using AI to make a promo video for Designity. And we've been all the scenes that is in the video, we are using actually like AI. We give it a prompt to describe the environment and basically get the result, which is pretty insane, right? But we are modifying and customizing it all the way along, right? And adding a strategy to tell a story. Otherwise, it's just going to become like those stock images that when we use it for your project, you look at it and you're like, oh, I've seen that picture in the back of the bus last week. Can we use a different picture, right? It becomes so cliche that you don't want to use it anymore. So I think it's powerful if we just use it in the right way and add our human touch to it.
So then you are saying that, okay, so you're using it and it speeds up maybe the creative process a little bit, right? Where you might have spent maybe 10 hours doing this. Now you could do it in 5 hours because the AI helped you generate some of the basic or even spark some creativity. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so then if we can save time, though, I'm just wondering, like, at scale, those 10 hours into 5, 100 into 50, maybe instead of hiring 100 people, maybe you only need 70 people. So I'm just wondering, what happens with the other 30 people that didn't get hired because AI made you? You're right, I didn't replace all 100, but there is that percentage of designers that maybe are lower level, lower scale. That do you think what's going to happen with them?
No, for sure. I mean, it is going to eliminate, as mentioned earlier, like the jobs for those who are copy pasting, right? And that's the unfortunate truth. I mean, right now it's with AI. The same thing happened like 10, 15 years ago with like the different products that Adobe Suite released. I'm sure it's going to happen anyway. So technology in any way always going to streamline the process, and some people get happy, some people uh, are not just happy with that fact. It's just gonna happen anyway. And rather than just being sad and crying and saying, "Oh, I'm losing my job. I can't be a
Yeah,
copywriter. I can't be a social media like manager anymore." We just need to learn and see how we could actually use it in our favor and make it faster for us. But yes, there will be more efficiency. Companies may probably need to pay less for the creative services as these things comes up. But I don't see it to be replaced anytime soon, to be honest.
I agree. Though I just want to know because what's happened is I just talked to a person who's looking to switch jobs into technology, and he's at the early stage of his career, is trying to figure out what to do, as maybe some of our listeners are. And he spoke to a friend of his that works at Deloitte Consulting and asked him, like, "Hey, what should I learn? I want to be a programmer. Like, what should I learn?" And the guy at Deloitte told him that everything's moving to AI and there's no reason for him to learn any of it. He's like, "This is over. It's game over. There's no reason to be a software engineer." That's what the guy at Deloitte told him. And I was like, dude, it's just like so ludicrous that you would be told that and discouraged from even pursuing a career in the space because of some trend that supposedly is going to kill the industry. So I agree with you. Just want to tell that story. On to you, Taylor.
No, it's absolutely true, and I've actually observed that myself. Like we were working on the launch of our Web3 projects a couple of months ago, and one of our developers was sitting next to me, and we were talking about a function that would repeat the script every minute. And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna just like get that done as next phase." And then I'm like, "Yeah, can we just make sure that we do this before the launch?" And then he was like, "Let me use ChatGPT." He literally just asked ChatGPT and just write the code for him to basically execute the scripts every minute or so. Like something that traditionally took maybe a couple of hours to do it, he did it in like 2 minutes, basically, right? It's great. It's more time for him to sort of like double check everything else, think about the other things that he could do and stuff like that. And it's also great for us because we got it done much, much faster.
Talk through what it's like from a customer's perspective to work with Designity. Like what is kind of the use case? What's the use case? Like if I'm a potential user, what pain am I having right now? Yeah. You kind of talk through what that journey looks like.
Like, what would they use your agency versus Taylor's? I know Taylor's not in there anymore, so but somebody else's
versus like a 20-person kind of traditional marketing agency. Like where do you draw that distinction?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we don't call ourselves an agency. It's a platform which is very different than the way that agencies operate. But traditionally, there are basically three different ways to go after your creative projects, right? You either hire someone in-house, which is great. It just takes a lot of time to find that right person. And the big problem that I personally have with that is that the creative industry becomes very specialized, right? In the past, you could call yourself a graphic designer and then you could just do a lot. But now you need like someone who's specialized in font, someone who's specialized in color, an illustrator, a UX artist, a UI artist, right? And like audio engineers and so on. So it's like a surgery room that if you need a project, you need a team of specialized people led by someone in order to get a good result. So hiring someone in-house, unless you could just hire like 20 or 10 of them, is going to be limited, right? And obviously costly and so on. So the second option is obviously working with those traditional agencies that they would charge you millions of dollars to just draw a line for you or create a landing page, which which is not ideal anymore, right? That's kind of like going out of the escape. And the last option is going to marketplaces, Upwork, Fiverr, and getting freelancers basically overseas to just save on cost. And it's great. We use it ourselves in day-to-day basis for different tasks, but it's just not reliable. And you have to basically understand that you need to sacrifice the quality, and you need to accept the fact that it requires a lot of hand-holding during the process to get a good result. So many companies that come to Designity, they just wanted to get that hassle-free experience. So when you join Designity, you get a dedicated creative director with 10 plus years of experience, and that person is your main point of contact. And they do have access to a team of US-based creatives specialized in different areas, from graphic design to copywriters and so on. And your point of contact is always one person. And basically, they would switch the creatives as your need changes. And now that you have a team, you have a creative director who provides a strategy and project management. On top of that, you also added the technology that basically streamline the process of creating a project brief, creating a timeline, collaborating with your creatives, and so on. And when you combine all of that together, it becomes something powerful that's basically put your creative projects on autopilot. And we have basically clients like Marriott Hotel who used to work with one of those traditional agencies. They decided to switch to Designity because they see that they can save a lot of money by using our plan. We also see a lot of smaller companies that rather than hiring another in-house team, they would basically use Designity plan, which is also flexible and month to month. So you could just like a Netflix subscription, you could just start and get some projects done and then pause again and come back 6 months, 3 months later. So we see a movement basically in that area of many companies using our model.
And so would they use it in a way, so I could use Designity to create me some social media content, to create some assets for the website? To your point, if people are using stock photos, they all look the same. So maybe I want somebody to help me create some assets that look unique. It's kind of those creative elements. Does it scale all the way up to they could create landing pages, websites, full-blown videos, the whole thing?
Yes, we offer about 100 different design and marketing categories, from content marketing to running ads to basically putting together web design, even video, explainer video, animation video. So we have different type of creatives in our team that can basically enable us to offer any type of design and marketing services that you may need as a company.
First of all, I want to know who charges millions of dollars to draw a line.
Deloitte.
There's so many of them. There's so many of them.
So, like, do you think customers really aren't aware that, like, who pays for that? Whoever pays for that must be that they believe it's not just the line they're getting, but maybe a name or a relation. Like, why do people make those purchases?
I think it's just one of those things that is going to eliminate, as time goes by, they're going to be eliminated. But I mean, I used to work at a large corporation myself as a senior graphic designer, and each year we had like a specific budget. Like there says, here's $10 million for design, and then you guys figure it out how you want to spend it, where you want to spend it, and so on. And then my manager was basically allocating the budget to different projects. And I remember there was a day around Christmas that I was told that, we have about like 35, 40K left from the budget. What do you think we should do? I'm like, I have no idea. And then they said, what about that 3 pages website that we wanted to do? So we hired someone, paid like 35K to just design a 3 pages website. And I'm not talking about like 50 years ago. I'm talking about like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. So when there is a budget, they wanted to spend it. But I think that companies are getting more and more smarter about like their design and marketing budgets. I hope at least that they could just understand that there is a better way to get it done.
So always one that it just seems to me like in this business, it's all about sales. And so I'm wondering, how did you get your first customer? Was it your old company, or how? Yeah, how did you get it for Designity, your first customer?
Yeah, so we actually had to bootstrap in from the beginning, and for me, it was very important to figure out a way to make money, because when I decided to take Designity very serious, I left my job, and I was again broke for the second time in my life with no money, and I had to obviously figure out living in expensive New York City, and it was stressful, right? So one thing that I did after I made a lot of mistakes, but one thing that I did right was basically figuring out from day one how to sell the product that pretty much we didn't have. And I started putting together a deck of like the ideal Designity and the way it works. And started basically reaching out to clients that time through Craigslist. I was just emailing people who were looking for graphic designer. I was like, hey, would you be interested working with this model called Designity? It works like XYZ. And then 10 emails, 100 emails, 1,000 emails. I got some reply. And then there were some people who were interested in that model. So I was selling during the day myself. And at the night, I was the creative director and the designer myself, also designing it as well. And as I started getting some clients, so eventually hired someone to basically help me with the sales. And I told him, here's the script, here's the demo. Don't touch it. Just execute on it like this exactly. It's been working. And then he took over and started helping with sales. And I was the designer. And then eventually we hired more designer. So it was just like literally brick by brick over the past few years to build it to this point that we are about 100 people.
100 clients.
About 100 employees and 75 plus clients.
And so you're saying you didn't just bring some old client you had that you had in your pocket. You started from scratch, and you said you emailed. Wait, how did you said hundreds or thousands of Craigslist emails? Is that what you said?
I was literally checking every day on Craiglinks, Behance, and some other platforms to see who are the people looking to hire graphic designer and reaching out to them. So just literally doing it manually, like every day, and then following up with them. And that was sort of my go-to-market strategy. I remember there was a time that I was not getting that much reply. So I posted a job as hiring a graphic designer as a fake company myself to see the approach of the graphic designers. How would they approach and apply for things like that? And obviously I learned from that experience, optimized my approach a little bit. And that's how I made it work.
I think these are like very key takeaways for people listening. You talk about it like it was the normal path, but it sounds like, A, your back was against the wall. You had to make it happen. And then it seems like you're very creative at finding all the places where designers are and then contacting these people. How would you contact them? Like, how would you have their contact?
So there were two things. Like from the client side, it was basically mostly just like email marketing and Craigslist and LinkedIn and that, right? And then from the creative side, one thing that was very helpful was basically attending some of the job fairs from different universities, and we were getting a lot of emerging students who wanted to work with brands and build their portfolio. And it was a great sort of value prop for them to, hey, just come here. It's going to be paid. There's going to be a creative director to mentor you. And then we're going to be paying you per project. It's not a fixed salary. And they could have done it like on the side. And that's how we got a lot of designers in New York area initially to basically work with us on a freelance basis.
Awesome. And you know what I love is that you wrote that email yourself. By the way, I just got a sales email recently from somebody. I was like, this was so perfectly written and just seemed like a perfect timing. And I emailed them back like, hey, what tool did you use to do this? What AI system drafted it? And she's like, no, she's the founder and CEO. And she's like, no, it's just me. I just got a list of people and I'm just writing everybody an email. And yeah, I thought it was interesting. With all the tools that we have these days, the personal one still got through to me better than the others. So
it's obviously it gets different like over time. Like when I started, like you wouldn't get like that many spam email. It was a little bit better. And it also goes back, like, how much do you really want it? Like, for me, it was like, either you're going to figure out and sell this, or you're going to go back and get that fucking corporate job and be miserable every day. So that was the position that I was in. to make it work. And I was really working hard, like to just make it happen. And one extra email, one extra phone call. And I remember like when I had like, but but my girlfriend that time actually was telling me that like, there's no way this is going to work out. Maybe you should get a part-time job. And within a few months, I got it to a position that it was making like $3,000 and then $4,000 a month. And then she was like, that's great. Now we could like figure out the rent situation. And then literally like thousand by thousand, I just like scale it to a position that we are right now. So if you want it, you'll figure it out. Like email marketing or any other way, there is a way always.
How do you take that hustle culture, like to Flavia's point, you did these things that I think feel very natural to you, but they're probably not natural to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
How do you take that hustle culture that works really well when it's you, right? You're writing those emails, and then at night you're doing the actual work. But then, how do you roll that into a company that has 100 employees now? How do you spread that culture within the firm? And then also, how do you scale like quality? Because you probably have a high bar for quality and a high bar for how you sell things. How do you kind of approach that scaling process of going from just you to adding the first person, the next person, and rolling it all up to 100 now?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, and it's definitely a challenge for a lot of companies, including ourselves, scaling because it gets tricky, right? If you wanted to be ready to involve and try to just show them, especially in an environment like Designity, that there are founders who build it like literally themselves, like break by break from the beginning with no funding, and they know like how to do things in different ways. It gets tricky if you wanted to sort of give them a lot of mentorships, then it feels like micromanagement, which nobody likes. And if you wanted to just leave it alone, then they're going to lose on all those opportunities that they could learn from the mistakes that you made during the process. But I guess like one thing that I found successful so far is by over communicating and documenting and over communicating. This is the documentations for the way that we've done things so far. These are the mistakes and red flags. This is how it works. This is how it doesn't work. By the way, don't forget our mission. We are not another agency. Like making another like 100K is not the goal here. Bringing those big clients or building the brand is the most important thing. So constantly basically reminding them about the goals and the mission at Designity and just showing what we have done, and then let them take it or leave it. Like there are many cases that I know what they are suggesting or proposing is not going to work, but I can't be like that CEO that goes there and says, I don't think if it's going to work out, do it this way, right? I'm just going to let them do it. Like to myself, I'm like, this is a failure, but I'm like, all right, just do it and then get back to me with the results. And then sometimes works, which is a new way that we never knew. Sometimes doesn't work. And then they go back and look at those documentations to learn from it, basically. So I think it's not an easy answer. It's definitely a challenge that I'm dealing myself on a day-to-day basis, but that's been successful for me so far.
How did you, where do you look to for mentorship or for these models for how to grow? How do you find your own mentors, or what kind of systems do you use to help scale the business and also to help scale yourself, right? Because you're only one person. There's only 24 hours in a day. How do you kind of think of those things as you scale the business and your own personality?
Yeah, I actually never shared this, like I guess publicly, but and because it feels a little bit stupid, but I say it anyway. The way that I learn things, because I'm a very impatient person and I don't like to read, and I never read a book probably in my entire life. Like I buy it and I just like keep it on the shelf, and then I just probably like read the first 5 pages and I get bored and I don't continue it anymore. So my source of inspiration is a lot of videos, right? Gary Vee and other entrepreneurs who are self-made and they build it themselves. And I look at a lot of different mentors specialize in different areas, like how to be a good leader, Simon Sang, like marketing and social media, Gary Vee. And like I have like a list of those that I follow. And one thing that is working for me is basically just adjusting my social media feed around those people. Like if you look at my TikTok right now, all you see is content related to what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. For instance, we are thinking to expand to the European market over the next few months, and I changed my interest and so many other settings in TikTok. Everything you see in my TikTok like feed when I open it, it's all about like corporations, like registering here to just avoid the taxes, like the structure of the company, this and that. And I just like go deep in my basically non-working times to learn and educate myself in a fun and engaging way. And then that's kind of like my way of learning.
Wait, how do you change the settings to get that type of content on TikTok?
So, I mean, the thing is like with TikTok, actually, like it's different, right? I mean, the more you look at type of content, the more they're going to target you anyway. So that's the best thing. I find basically a couple of, let's say, influencers, let's say for corporate tax or for marketing and for sales, right? And I started following their accounts, and tomorrow everything in my feed is like around that specific topics and the accounts that I don't know.
Yeah, all I get is like protein supplement recommendations basically when I open it up. So I stopped opening it up. Let's switch off to NFT. You say you want to talk about NFTs on your LinkedIn. So I want to talk about NFTs. I guess what are your thoughts? Why is that? I guess why are you passionate about that space?
I mean, in my opinion, that's the future, right? And NFT is a small product out of Web3. And when I started learning about Web3 and NFT and blockchain, I didn't really understand it well in the beginning, that how profound and useful could be. But as soon as I understood the logic behind it, I really started diving deep into it. And last year, our goal at Designity was basically to enable our platform as a Web3 platform, which we launched a couple of months ago. We haven't marketed publicly. We haven't talked about it much yet. But we are basically a first marketplace in Web3 where you could basically review the creatives as you work with them. And those review becomes a score and ultimately a status for the creatives who are working with you. And those creatives can basically get an NFT for their status and level. So let's say if you're a creative within Designity, you could be a super senior or super CD, similar to Airbnb having different levels, right? And your compensation changes based on the status that you hold. And then you have a visual, which is the NFT, that basically showcase your level. So let's say 5 years from now, when you wanted to get a job, and we are in the future, right? Looking at your portfolio and your LinkedIn won't be enough, because you could put anything in your portfolio and LinkedIn that is not yours. But through Designity's NFT, you could say, here's my NFT and the status. These are all the reviews that I got. These are all the skills that's been proven in blockchain. And companies can basically make decision based on a verifiable way of looking at your backgrounds, right? So that's how we use it at Designity. But to me, Web3 and NFT is the future, same like internet that came 20 years ago. I don't know exactly when, and many people didn't take it, and they went out of the business. I think if companies don't take it serious, they're going to be soon in trouble, to be honest.
I guess I disagree. I'm trying to articulate why. Well, I guess I'm wondering, how do you prove your skills? I see you said the example is an NFT will be able to prove that a person has these design skills better than if you on LinkedIn say, hey, I do Photoshop. So help me understand, how's an NFT going to be better than LinkedIn saying I know Photoshop?
Yeah, actually, you answered it yourself too, right? So if you say that you're good in Photoshop, it's just you, right? And you could like be honest about it or not honest about it. But if 100 people or 1,000 people come and say, actually, you are good in Photoshop because this project of that project and that projects that you work with, you use actually Photoshop, and then they submitted that's basically reviews on blockchain for you, that became a score. Now it's a verifiable statement that I'm good in Photoshop, right? That's the...
Also, where did these so you're saying the 100 people I worked with, I asked them, hey, go on Designity and recommend me basically Photoshop. Is that what, or write a review?
Right. The way that we have it is that once a project is completed, you have to submit a review. It's not that they can get around it, basically. So by completing each project, you would also like submit a quick survey that basically say, what was the tools that you used, and then what was the attention to details, for instance, from the client side, they would also submit it. So there are multiple reviews that comes from a creative director sides, from Designity sides, and from the client sides, asking the questions in the different ways regarding the skills or the quality of the works or the turnaround time, that then leads into a specific score that says this person, when it comes to attention to detail, is 4 from 5. When it comes to Photoshop, it's like 5 from 5, right? And so on. So, and then it's just not one person, right? It's like a collection of data.
What if for the things they do outside of Designity, right? Because they might do some work on Behance and people give them reviews there, and then they do some work on Upwork and they do it there, or even on LinkedIn, right? I can recommend Taylor for his design skills, and now it's like, oh, Bobby recommended him. How, you know what I mean? How do you become the source of truth when you have all these different platforms that the designers use?
You're right. You're absolutely right. So that for now, we don't have that function that we could collect all the data outside of the Designity network and Designity ecosystem. But that's the goal in the future, to basically scale this into a much larger than just Designity model, into an employee-based review system that can be used actually by other companies, not just for design services. It could be actually used for so many other industries as well when it comes to employee-based services.
How do you see kind of the future of design? Speaking of that, not just in terms of Web3 or NFTs, but where do you see the business going? I mean, do you have a vision, or how do you think of the future of the business?
You meant the future of Designity or design in general?
No, Designity, the business.
Yeah, so we are basically aiming to be the number one platform for any sort of design and marketing services globally. That's our goal, right? We want, the cliche way I'm going to use it, we want people to think about Designity the same way that you think about Airbnb and Uber when it comes to transportation and accommodation. That's kind of the goal that we are going after, and that's why we are investing in Web3 technologies and doing a lot of fundamental work, and not being focused on like a yearly growth or quarterly growth and the numbers, but the technology and the community that we are building, so that we could strategically scale this business to a global market.
One last question for me is, how do you kind of manage your own time, and how do you manage your own attention? You mentioned about how you've kind of hacked TikTok in a way, but how do you manage on a day-to-day basis? Like, what am I going to work on today? What are the things I should focus on today? Do you use platforms or models like EOS, or how do you kind of manage yourself and your own time?
Another great question. So I know that there's a lot of conversation around like work-life balance, especially that we are working in a remote environment. I honestly do not believe in work-life balance. I think you need to love what you do and make that part of your life. That's kind of my opinion on things. And I apply the same analogy to my day-to-day life. You find me working all the time, at nights, during the days, over the weekends, but I very much enjoy it. Like when I have nothing to do, I would think about another functions or another features or another things that I could connect it to design it. Just 2 weeks ago, we actually created a new model for our creatives, which is going to be released actually this week. And this was something that came out of my Thanksgiving sort of slow days and talking with my sisters and so on, that we figure out a way to connect it to Designity, and we're going to share all about it. But the way that I do it, I try to be flexible a little bit with my schedule, so I could have that freedom of going a little bit off the road and get creative from time to time. But at the same time, I have specific goals. Like we do have actually a couple of Germans in our team, which makes it a lot easier. We do have yearly goals, and then we break them down into quarterly goals, and then monthly goals and weekly goals. So every Monday, including myself, we get together as a team. We discuss the goals that we have for the week, and then we break it down to a specific task. So every day we use Miro, which is a visual way, and we are obviously designers, and it's easier for us. So I know the things that we wanted to do this week, for instance, right? And I break it down to a specific task, and I just get it done. I might actually put a goal for today, but I may not actually get it done because in the middle of like doing it, maybe something came to my mind that I wanted to explore or research. So I do have that flexibility, and I'm okay if I don't get it done that day. But I would get it done within a week or two anyway, because it is in my plan and I wanted to just get it done. So having it written is super important, in my opinion, when it comes to time management, and knowing what needs to be done by when is super critical and important.
All right, last question. What would you advise an entrepreneur that also maybe just quit their job, or maybe is thinking about quitting their job to start a company? What would you tell them?
I would tell them definitely do it, but before you do it, know one thing, and that is that entrepreneurship is a very, very, very lonely and rocky journey. And during the process of being an entrepreneur, you may break a lot of hearts, like hiring and firing a lot of amazing people that you just, as a founder, think is not going to be a good fit. You have to make that decisions, and every single time you make that decisions, they're not going to like you, obviously. There is going to be a lot of problems and challenges that comes your way every single day. Every morning that I open my eyes, the first thing, good or bad, is I check my phone first to see if everyone's okay and nobody died and there is nothing around me that is just like in trouble, right? Honestly, like that's the first thing I care about. The second thing, I open my Slack and my email, and 95% of the time, things that is coming my way is problems and complaints and issues that I need to figure out a way to solve it, right? So it's very rocky, and it's just a lot of ups and downs and the challenges along the way. And the only way that you could actually make it work is by not quitting and accepting that it's lonely and it's rocky, and whatever comes your way, you just need to adjust. And they say you do not have to change your goal. You just need to change your strategy. So that's the thing. You know where you want to go. You know what you want to be. And then you just need to deal with the problems and try to take them and move on. And nobody is going to thank you, by the way, for the things that you do, right? So many people would come and complain you every day, but nobody's going to come to you and say, hey, thank you for, or barely people do it, for doing this and that for me. And you need to be okay with that. So that's why I'm saying that it's a lonely journey, and you have to be okay with that if you really want to be successful.
Well, there are a lot of ups and downs, although you seem to have stressed more the downs than the ups. Well, how can people contact you? Where's the best place to find you?
Sure. The best way is Shahrouz at designity.com. I'm also like on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else. So yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you making the time to be on Founder Secrets.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for rocking with the homies. Taylor, Trusty, and Flavio. Seize the day, own it. Until next time, hold it down, hold it down. Hey.